have we slept in between? Thanks for joining. A lot of you joined us last night for our midweek special. Don't forget that. That was a good one. That was so nostalgic and such fun. So do check it out if you missed it. Pyramids of Mars. Come on, you can't go wrong. Best unit story. Take a look. But I know a lot of you were joining us last night. So new content. If you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. Come on, give us a favor. So today, yes, today, with the worst TV ratings, I'm sorry to say this. I'm not saying this with relish, you know. I really am not. I'm a Doctor Who fan. With the worst ratings in Doctor Who history, whether you don't care about the overnights, you don't care about the hidden audience appreciation figures, you don't care that the consolidated 28-day figures are repeat watchers on multiple platforms, I call it cheating, that you don't care that the media seems to have ignored the return of Doctor Who, you don't care that Doctor Who is not being talked about across the nation, I will assert there is a big problem with the Doctor Who series as it is currently set up. The saviour of Doctor Who in 2005 to 2010, a man-machine of stories and ideas and fun and complexity, has returned with few new ideas, lazily resorting to the same plot formula, the same plot tricks, the same resolutions. Ironically, paraphrasing the dialogue the Doctor used against Harriet Jones at the end of the Christmas Invasion, don't his stories look tired? Is there a new fresh idea in the house? So based on Rtd'S approach to seasons 1, 2, 3 and 4 under Eccleston and Tennant, I will summarise my main criticisms of current Rtd, and I shall, wait for it, yes, I will nail my colours to the mast, I will look into the Sense 3-year time window and offer my predictions of how this season will be finished. So come and share your predictions with me and let us discuss the problem with Rtd part 1. His writing, his plots, his resolutions, his formula. Okay, well, I've promised an awful lot there. So everybody in the thread, you know where we're starting. It's the critiques first, the critiques. So let me just establish my credentials. I call it credentials. I think it's called putting your slides up. Right, so let's have a look here. So because we obviously have the impending Empire of Death finale just around the corner, some of you will see it just before me, with glimpses of Armageddon, Ruby Sunday's involvement, the Harbinger controlling the TARDIS, the Dr. Monk-like or John the Baptist-like on some sabbatical on either a desert planet or deserted Earth after Armageddon, knowing how the pyramids resolved the Sutekh problem, remember, and studying how seasons 1 to 4 were structured, I will offer a list of predictions of what could happen on Saturday. That time window is going to be key, just like the time vortex was. Is that Harbinger going to be key? Is that Ruby Sunday going to be key? And there's there's a lot more I'm going to say, don't you, Rory? I'm not just teasing you for no delivery at the end. So, is he going to send Sutekh back into eternity again? You know, the same old trick after a nice bit of fun with Armageddon. Yeah. And I'm going to use our seasons 1 to 4 as some of our kind of decent evidence. So let's kind of set ourselves up. So please, I'm going to refer to the thread in a minute. I'm going to just get the spiel going first so I can give you some delivery. Then I'll share some of the ideas from the thread and we'll kind of double take on critics. So this section is criticisms of Rtd, and then we'll look at our predictions for the Empire of Death. So I want at the moment criticisms. I'm not saying let's pile into him. You know that's not my forte. What we're saying is things that need changing. So let's take a look. My first criticism, I have to say, of the Rtd2 era is he says, as a showrunner, he can't repeat things. He doesn't like to just do the same old. He likes to keep reinventing. He likes to have challenge. He doesn't want to be bored with the work he's doing. Well, let someone else have it then. And I'm serious about that. Just because there's money involved now, don't come back and just sit on the chair and hold it, unless you're just cashing in. It's not fair. You've had your time. You did well, by the way, Rtd. You did well. Just leave it alone. coming back and doing spoilers and stuff like that, I think it's wrong and it's unfair. You did leave after the season 4 and the season 4 specials, and you did say you were tired, and you did say you'd used all your ideas. Don't come back and do some rehashes and tryouts, although this is what I think you're doing. And the other thing is, as a teacher, we do have to every day do the spin cycle of the same old ideas, the same lesson content. You know, you tweak it for the classes, but you do. You can't let ego come in going, do you know, I've done this 27 times before. You're paid to do a job. If that's what the school thinks is on the curriculum and how to deliver it the best, you do it. You do not get involved. And where I think some of these creatives are really just letting their ego get in the way, Doctor Who has a tried and tested formula. Doctor Who, it's quite clear what works in Doctor Who. You can challenge a few bits with some new material regarding budget and how far you can show things, but the formula's there and it's a successful one. What's the problem is, if you don't have really new ideas like RTD at the moment, but you want to hold the job, the only thing left to make it different is fads and flaws of current society. And that's where we get into a bit of a pickle. And also, he wants to pitch to the younger ones. And so he's going to tweak the whole Doctor Who. When, as you know, Doctor Who never aimed at anybody. It aimed at family audience. So that was my first big criticism. See what you think in the thread. I'm going to come to you soon. Don't you worry. My second criticism of RTD that should be changed. He can keep the job. Should be changed. It needs to be episodic. He wants to have his cake and eat it. 1 minute, he wants all the stories to stand on their own 2 feet, and he doesn't want them bogged down. And yet he throws in all his story arcs and character arcs and Susan Twists and Mrs. Flood and Ruby Sunday's Mud. He throws it all in. Bad Wolf, you know, Harold Saxon. They're all there. So actually, he's lying, isn't he? He is saying you need a cohesive season. He is actually saying that. So why doesn't he do that? Why doesn't he have an episode 1 cliffhanger, move to episode 2 next week? House of the Dragon does it. Game of Thrones does it. Star Trek Discovery did it. I know that had other issues, but you could see the link between. For God's sake, the 2024 streaming audience like that build-up. You might be on one planet for episode 1 and episode 2 is different, but there's a link through. And you know, Doctor Who without cliffhangers, I think, is sacrilege anyway. So I think he's forgetting what's out there. Don't repeat 2005 RTD. It's now 20 years later, really. So actually change. Doctor Who change. Can we slow down, by the way? I'm not saying my speech. I'm saying, can we slow down RTD? If you do have a good idea, if you think you've got a great context, like the Crucible in season 4, you know, Davros and the Supreme Dalekrin, in 2 episodes were in and out. Now, the Crucible to me looked like a Doctor Who version of the Death Star. Now, a Death Star would be the whole series, wouldn't it? How do you break it down? How do you block its laser? You know, how do you kind of get some secret plans of it? Star Wars would do movies of that. But we do it straight away, in, out, bang. Next week, we'll do some hocus pocus, different type of story. I think he's missing the point. If you have what looks like an interesting concept, go into it, build the world, build it, get us in there and build your cliffhangers along. And I think that Crucible in season 4, stealing planets and all the rest of it, could have been a whole season. A whole season. I know the Lost Moon of Poosh or whatever it was, and a few things were mentioned throughout. That's the only way he does story arcs, isn't it? A mention. And he hopes he gives you the payoff in the final. But really, why don't we just have that thing is there all the time? So I think that's a disappointment, and I do think I would really recommend episodes need to be back. My next criticism is on the slowing down of everything is using the concept and developing it. Like I said, the Death Star, the Crucible, season 4. The sexualization in Doctor Who needs to stop. I think that's going to get so bogged down on repeat later on when people have moved on. I think it's as you know, in many of my streams, I think it has diminished and compromised the lead role, the lead figure, the hero. Too compromised. I mean, if you think of Superman, slightly compromised sometimes with Lois Lane. You know, the whole planet in one of the Superman movies, you know, earthquakes everywhere, Armageddon and all the rest of it, very like Empire of Death looks like. And he had to be aware of where Lois Lane was caught in some sort of, you know, tectonic plate breakup. You know, I don't like that. I don't like the compromise of our main character. Because with Pyramids of Mars in mind, you know, one person might be dead, get over it. I'm looking at the rest of civilization to save. So the sexualization thing, the sexual relationships, the rogue kiss, it's just compromising our Doctor. My other criticism, by the way, is he is, and I'm going to prove this, he does repeat the same things all the time in his plot. Anyway, I'll say that in a minute with evidence. The speed plot, the thrown fast exposition, the fast Doctor dialogue. Remember David Tennant? Bang! And now we've got the shouty dialogue. Hi, honey babe, Mavity gloves, yay! And all that time you're going, hold on a minute. This is psychobabble. This is nonsense. Slow down. What are you saying? It's not clever because you shout it, and it's not clever because you say it fast. Okay? And I think there's a lot of covering, and it's the same kind of Doctor presentation, really, that the RTD seems to want. There's a laziness that has to stop. John Nathan Turner would have had this out the window. The sonic screwdriver is out of control. The psychic paper was another version of that. The Mavity gloves. Season 2, the magnetic clamps. Oh, I'm going to mention so much from seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, where you can go, oh, right, so you just bumped into that. Bang, bang. Yeah, okay, got it. And now the TARDIS can land exactly where he needs it to every time by a microsecond, like saving Donna Noble in Wild Blue Yonder. That's not the TARDIS the Doctor has. He nicked it, and it doesn't work, and it's not the latest model. That adds a lot of jeopardy to the Doctor's stories. Don't make it all a neat trick, please. So that's my other criticism. Just got a few more, and then I'll see exactly what you've been saying while I've been saying all this. So, the chopped diet of stories. RTD is selling this myth to any executives who are blind enough just to go along with it. He's mis-selling Doctor Who. Doctor Who seasons weren't a chopped story, a chopped diet of stories. He's misdoing it here, misrepresenting it. Yes, in some seasons, you might land on the Leisure Hive, then you've got Meglos, and then you move around. You might have, let's have a look. Well, no, I won't do the unit stories because we're bogged down in Earth most of the time. But you get my point. He seems to suddenly say, no, you need a wacky story. You need a surreal story. You need a political satire. You need a this, and a musical, and a this. No, that was never Doctor Who. No. Yes, you might be the Romans, then the Keys of Marinus, then the Censorites. I'll always say the Censorites, obviously, with us being the Censphere. But that's how you did it. But he's mis-selling it, that you can't build up a season of tension. You can't build up a season of consistent tone, because one week it goes wacky, another week it goes silly, methane propelled spaceships, space babies, that sort of thing. No, you are mis-selling Doctor Who. You are actually not understanding Doctor Who. Or actually, the truth is, RTD, you're twisting it according to your agenda, because you do understand Doctor Who. It's just you don't want to bend to its will. You want Doctor Who to bend to your will. That's my problem. So I don't agree with this chopped diet. If you look at the season we've just had, Space Babies, Devil's Cord, Rogue, 73 Yards, Boom, it's just an absolute potpourri of pap. No, build up. Have the Crucible idea, like I said, that Death Star idea, and build it up over the stories. And yes, you might have to go to a planet, and the Sontarans might be there if you want to do that. You know, I'm not saying do a Flux, don't get me wrong. No, I'm not saying that. Flux had all the kind of the glamour of all that without any exposition proper and without any blooming development. That was just wham, bam, and no, well, I just didn't make too much sense. I'm getting sick. I think we all are, but please tell me. I'm getting sick of the seeds of references throughout a season. There are too many. Season 1, we had Bad Wolf, and I think he got so many plaudits for the Bad Wolf idea because it was a simple, neat trick, and it got a payoff. So now, of course, we then had Harold Saxon throughout the series with the payoff. I can never say them. The troclophane, or you know who I mean. Linked to the humankind in the future, that kind of thing. He has little seeds, doesn't he? Dalek, we had as a single episode for the payoff of the Daleks at the end. We had the Cybermen with the payoff at the end of lots of Cybermen. You know his modus operandi. So in this season, we had the Devil's Card Harbinger for the Harbinger at the end. So that's how he thinks it's clever dick territory. But I do think there's too many. Your eyes are going everywhere. As I always make references to being a football fan and how fans are treated differently, and they're appreciative that you pay and watch, even if it's rubbish. Well, if with Doctor Who, my eye can't stay on one ball because Susan Twist is a ball over there, Mrs. Flood's ball's there, Ruby Sunday's ball's over there. We know there's going to be a big climax, so we're trying to look further. That there's just too much going on, and I don't think it's clever anymore. I think a clever writer would have our eye laser sharp focused on one target. And if you want to do something really clever, have us really focused on Ruby Sunday's mother all the way through, and then you kind of do a clever trick to kind of say, well, that wasn't the main issue. The main issue was this. Just something, but he doesn't. Too many. He seems to, and of course, sorry, the payoff doesn't work because, as everybody's fearing with Empire of Death, are there going to be too many moments when he has to explain everything? Too many moments of that. My final lot of criticisms, and then I'm going to see what you've said. He seems to get plot ideas regularly and fast, he says. When I watched the Imagine documentary with Alan Yentop, oh, yes, I was just walking to work and I had 2 ideas for Doctor Who. Do you know, I was on the loo and I had 3 ideas for Doctor Who. We know one of them. And, he goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, in part, I respect that he probably does have a lot of ideas. He's a storyteller. However, that's just what you're saying is there's a spark of an idea. You have to sit down and properly develop it. I think under RTD1, he sometimes did. With this season, I don't see evidence really of that. I'm not talking about the silly story arcs. I'm talking about the episode being developed. He seems to get plot ideas regularly and fast. He then needs to slow down. I've mentioned the Crucible. That's my go-to example so we don't get confused. The 2005 formula needs changing and adapting. He seems to be on a repeat cycle thinking that's going to work again, and I don't think so at all. Same go-to plot devices from seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to take a breather and, as you know, a cup of tea. I haven't looked at the thread yet because, as you know, I've only got 2 eyes. So I'm going to come to you now. I've just seen Graham Dawson saying, hi, Brendan, which football team do you support? Well, that's an easy one. Middlesbrough, Northeast Coast, Middlesbrough. I'm a season ticket holder, which means I'm a proper fan. And whether we're relegated or promoted tends to be the first one. Or we just stumble around. I support them and I pay an awful lot of money per year to watch or boo or criticize the manager or the team. And the thing with Doctor Who fans is, why are we treated as if you're criticizing, clear off? If you're criticizing, go and touch grass. If you're criticizing, you're not a true fan. Wow, that's not how you're treated in any other circumstance. And it needs to change in the Bad Wolf executive boardroom, if you don't mind. Right, let's come to the thread. Because while I've been having my little gripes about criticisms, and remember, after we've discussed your criticisms and I had a nice share of ideas, and if you haven't subscribed, come on, press that button in the meantime. The other thing I want to say is we'll then do the predictions. Oh, we're going to have some fun. I've got a fair few, you know. I'm not just saying Sutek's back. Haha, no, there's more. So let's have a discussion about what you have been saying. So I said earlier on, hello to TARDIS Spider, hello to Doug Sims, Enigmatic Joker, Anthony Parkinson, Paul Baker, John Eulden. Now, and I'll say more as I go through and see some of your ideas. Doug Sims, I used to think RTD was a good writer, but I think he fooled us first time round. He regurgitates his own work and steals from others. And yes, in a moment, Doug, I'm not going to go into detail to death. We do want the stream to kind of be nice and shipshape, but I will point out certain things from seasons 1 to 4 where I think they're going to help us predict the end of this season. And so, yes, I'm proving your point. Hello, Mark the Vicar. Good to see you again. Anthony Parkinson. The creatives keep changing shows because they're bored. For them, the show, not just Doctor Who, is year-round, whereas for us, it's few weeks a year. We want the show we recognise. And that's all we ask. And I have to say, and I'm not bigging up my own job, but a lot of us just have to get on with the job. And for the sake of the kids who are new to your curriculum, you give them, that your expertise with the same material. With Doctor Who, you'd expect the showrunner to go, it's not about me. It's not about I'm a bit bored. I'm getting paid for this. We know what the Doctor Who fans and casual viewers like about Doctor Who, and we give them that, but with more money. Instead, he's bored and he wants to change it. And I'm sorry, that's vandalism. Get out. Barry Stroud, good to see you. You're saying evening. I'm fascinated with everyone is. Is that Australia? Evening, should have reset and ignored the Chibnall rubbish. Well, as you saw on some of my streams, why does he respect Chris Chibnall's work but not Terry Nation's or Robert Holmes's or anybody else's? That seems a bit unfair. These progressives are funny. It's never about equality, is it? Doug, if we had a Doctor that resonated with the viewers, I, for one, would enjoy this more. Even Tom Baker had stinkers, but he was always the Doctor. And yes, shall we just park that there, Doug? Yes, every Doctor has had stories that weren't quite right. I said to the stream the other day, the Rebus operation, I never know which way to say it, in the Key to Time, because Graham Williams came in and there was a diktat that had to change things. I didn't like how Tom Baker was delivering those lines. It was too much humour. And, everybody does. I am a Doctor Who fan. I will critique Classic Who. I will praise Classic Who. And I'll do the same with this era. I am fair. I hope I'm fair anyway. Hello, Divine and Dragon. Good to see you. Nigel Jones. Hello. Isn't it funny? Well, I pick this time. I never know if anyone's going to turn up. I'll have to put this up. Divine and Dragons agreeing with me. I mean, it's nice when you're on your own and the panel aren't telling me off. Brendan is correct. The observations that are being made are very sound. Yes, I think go to the top of the class, Divine and Dragon, gold star. Thank you very much. Michael Herbert, I agree with much of your critique. Making the Doctor human was always a mistake. Sadly, after 60 years of watching, if it stopped now, I would not miss it. And Michael Herbert, this is the disappointment. I can't, using my other analogy of football, I can't imagine, even if Middlesbrough got relegated 3 times in a row, we have been bankrupt before. I can't imagine just turning and saying, I'm never going to watch them again. Because as a fan, you've invested your time, your energy, your experience, girlfriends, boyfriends, you've gone. My mum was 8 months pregnant with me in the football stadium when they got promoted. So you're invested in it. I take my mum to football now, she's 80. You're invested. And Doctor Who is just the same. How many of you know where you were sat when you were watching episode 3 of Plans of the Spiders or a certain episode? And I remember being sat on my mum's knee. That didn't happen often with Doctor Who. She was always in the kitchen. But Death to the Daleks, Part 1. And she had read the titles. I couldn't read at that point. So she knew the Daleks were coming up and she knew I was scared stiff because I ran away from Middlesbrough Town Hall when John Pertwee did his tour with the exhibition. And I could not hang around the exhibition. I waited. And as soon as we got into the room where the Daleks just moved on 2 tram lines and we heard exterminate, I ran like the clappers. And it was white fear. I just could not cope. So she knew the Daleks freaked me out. So I was only about 4 or 5. And so anyway, when Death of the Daleks came on, she sat and I was sat there, watching my favorite program. And then the Daleks coming out of the UFO. Whoa. And then I knew where my mum was there. So we all know we invest in this program. We all, that memory will go to me to my death, won't it? And I've got loads of other Doctor Who memories just like you have. I mean, share some of them because this is why we're fans. We don't walk away from the program. I know what Michael Herbert's saying, but we shouldn't feel as though we have to walk away because it's been taken from us. Give us, Divine and Dragon, I mean, I don't know how many gold stars you want. Adric got 1 and look how he ended up. Brendan is correct. So far, I have no problem with any of his observations. He's spot on. Oh, well, you're just going to have to just... Anthony Parkinson. It's just a bunch of mystery boxes and DEI propaganda badly stuck together. Extremely poor writing. Yeah, we have Rachel on, as you know, and she does her stream. She's probably going to hit 1K subs today, little devil. And I'm hoping to just get a bit closer to her. So please, sub, please. But yeah, it's. I think you can spot all. It's Doctor Who now. It's Doctor Who by colouring book. That's how it feels to me. Anthony Parkinson, there's no bigger fan of RTD than RTD. Well, you have to have some confidence, and I think to be in the media world and various others, you do have to believe in yourself. It's just that you also need a team who will question you, and I think that's where it falls flat. He's acknowledged that, hasn't he? He doesn't like to work with people who question him. Well, wouldn't we all like that? You know, I mean, how many times I had 30 critics an hour telling me if my lesson was rubbish or ill prepared. You know, I'm exaggerating because obviously the kids were decent, really, but they would critique. And if something went wrong, you got complaints from parents. You know, yeah, you have no ego in teaching. I sometimes think the ego with some creatives is just out of control. Yes, believe in yourself, and two, right, he has got talent, but please don't go OTT with it. Divine and Dragon. I must say, due to the brevity of the seasons, he needs to return to 2-3 multi-parts. It allows for depth. That's what I was saying, wasn't it? We need depth now. Build the world building. You really do need to do that. I call it the wham bam thank you ma'am Doctor Who now. It's superficial. It's gloss. And yet it's up against Harry Potter coming back, which will do every story in depth, as you know. House of the Dragon I watched the other night, and it's just like the world building's fantastic. Good dialogue, good story writing. And the same applied to Game of Thrones. And I'm a late convert to that, remember. Let's have a look. Divine and Dragon, you're telling us a whole load of good ideas here. I'll just get off my desperate clinging for 700 subs. Story arcs are simple, but he needs to make the Doctor the character of agency, not a side character. That is so true. And I with my predictions in a minute, unfortunately, I think I'm going to disappoint you again. Hello, Scottish Davros. You always put it quite well. Hello, buddy. Yes, he's just tossing stuff at the wall to see what sticks and what doesn't. I do think that's true. I think he has said somewhere in one of the many interviews trying to sell this series, he said that in season 2 and maybe plans for season 3, a greater range of writers. And so my suspicion is this year he did go extreme to say, look, you can do a musical or you can do this. Look what I did in that first season. Look, there's my portfolio. And I think that's kind of what he's done. But that means we've just been the sacrificial altar for some apprenticeship scheme. I don't think you do that with franchises nowadays, do you? Let's have a look. Lee Kane, good to see you. Give Doctor Who a long break. What we need is another John Nathan Turner, Robert Holmes and Terry Nation type team to do a hard reboot. I think you need a writer's room. You need people sat in a room, locked door, smoking all night, trying to work through all the complications of what Doctor Who tries to do, and sometimes where it falls flat. I always go back to the Blinovich limitation effect, where Terence Dix and Barry Letts sat down and discussed how Doctor Who always gets away with something in the plot, and they wanted to show there are limitations to the Doctor's ability. What do we call it? How do we show it? And they came up with Day of the Doctor. I mean, come on, this is clever stuff. They didn't have to do that. They were taking the money. They were getting paid. They were doing, a high-profile job. But no, they actually took it so seriously. They sat down and said, we don't. I mean, this is what RTD should be doing. If he's bored because it's Doctor Who, same old, and he can't deal with that, start thinking about some of the limitations of Doctor Who within that formula and how you can actually expose it or play with it a little bit. That's all I'm saying. Don't change the show or its DNA. Well, Graham Dawson, I'm a Middlesbrough fan. You're a Blackpool fan. Yes, I love your kit, though. I have to say that's a fantastic colour. You always look like the Netherlands. And I've been to the stadium too. And good luck next year. Yes, Divine and Dragon, we're on the same page. No sexual relationships, which is why the Rogue sequel that we're probably going to get is going to... Oh, if it hasn't killed it now. Michael Herbert, you sound so disappointed. I feel your pain on this one. I'm just going to spend a few more just checking if I've missed anything. Then we'll go to discussing the seasons, yeah, for a moment before I come to my predictions. Lee Kane reckons finale ratings will be at about 1.9. Just my opinion. I know. I mean, that's what we're up against, isn't it? That's what we're up against on the ratings. How the first episode of a two-part finale, can get the worst ratings in Doctor Who history. Not Space Babies, not Devil's Cord, and not Rogue. It was Legend of Super. That is an absolute clanner, isn't it? How can your finale, they want it in cinemas and everything, collapse like that? That is a shocker, an absolute shocker. So, get myself back in order again. Barry Stroud, New Zealand. Okay, yep, got you. No sign of Doctor Who on terrestrial TV here. And that is disappointment, because obviously I'm dual citizenship Australian, and I know the Australians are also kind of going mad that they have to stream into Disney, and it used to be on the ABC. Let's have a look. The Chibnall era left holes and mistakes and problems that need to be corrected. The only solution is to decanonize the era. What do I keep saying? Although it destroyed Dallas, the Bobby Ewing coming out of the shower and therefore obliterating the season you just watched, unfortunately, it then devalued the whole show. I get your point, Divine and Dragon. I've thought it myself. When we just got rid of Chibnall, I thought there was a chance. I think if it is true that there's a third season commissioned, 3 seasons, that's what, 24 episodes plus Christmas specials plus the specials. It's around 30 episodes. 30 episodes of Rtd showrunning. It'll be gone. You can't decanonize that. It's too much. It's too much of a bulk, isn't it? Tardy Spider just saying, it's not blasphemy, but do we as fans think we have more ownership in the show than the creators believe? We don't want to wreck the show. I mean, I don't agree with that kind of Ian Levine idea that we want to tweak everything and no, I just want a good show, but it does have a formula and it should be followed. Divine and Dragon. That is the way to grow up, Brendan. Proper terror of the wonderful monsters. Remember, terror, I don't mean, I suppose I'll tweak that word slightly as an English teacher. To be scared as a kid creates resilience, sparks up the imagination. You're making stories in your head of how you would get out of that situation if the Cybermen came up your stairs. You are actually working it out. It's inspiring. So I think it's important, and I think it's a shame that this new series of Doctor Who doesn't seem to like to kill people and really put them in jeopardy. Children need to see that and be exposed to it. Right, okay, as I see the time is going here, I think we probably, to be fair, need to kind of, I'll come back to the thread in a few moments. You know how I'll be fair on you. Let's go into some of our kind of what happened in the seasons and how I think this season therefore will end, and join me and tell me what you think. Okay, so we had the Bad Wolf story arc. Okay, remember that? We had the companion looking into the time vortex. Weird. We had the long game episode that I hadn't really enjoyed being useful because we went back to there and that was relevant because the Daleks had been waiting a long time. We're talking about the one who waits, Sutek, and yet the Daleks were waiting for centuries, playing with the human race from that satellite, remember? We had the shield. Remember, the Daleks were there all the time, but they were shielded, and the Doctor just had to press a button and suddenly we saw them. This is all going to be relevant in a minute, okay? So, I'm just reminding you of where we went with this one. And then we had all the popular cultural references. We had Davina McCall, Anne Robinson, Trini and Susanna. Some of them I enjoyed. I thought Anne Droid, Weakest Link, was great. I thought that was so imaginative. I think that worked. I have a sense of humor. I also like that kind of imagination. It didn't kill the plot. In fact, the android was lethal. That was clever. In fact, I'd have the android back. She actually wouldn't take any messing. But this time vortex thing and making Rose special is where we start to hit the problems, and they have happened every year since. because then we had to have the Doctor take the time vortex off her, fire a kiss, and then we started to go down that road. And then, of course, the other thing I don't want you to forget from season 1 is we have the disconnection with one of the companions. Captain Jack, as you know, was revived, but he was disconnected from the TARDIS crew, and so we see him later on. Remember that, because that has been used a lot too. When we came to season 2, we had the same trick, I think. With the army of ghosts through to Doomsday, you had the Cybermen disguised in how they were perceived as ghosts. You had the same popular cultural references, like you had EastEnders, Ghost Watch, and all the rest of it. And, you know, once that filters off, they're actually Cybermen. You also had another trick that he uses a lot. So I'm just kind of reminding you, then we're going to go into predictions. We had the parallel alternate universe Cybermen. And we have the Rift. And this is, I think, where he's going to go again. We had the magnetic clamps, which, as you know, they held on to, which he suddenly just found in Torchwood. And that was the great kind of the wheeze that would solve everything. That when you were facing Armageddon of thousands of Daleks and thousands of Cybermen and a big kickoff, all you needed was 2 magnetic clamps, open up a rift, bingo. Let's just see where we're going to go with this. So you had the Cybermen in the middle of the season for the payoff at the end. The same trick as season 1. And then you had the companion disconnect at the end. We know it. It was really well done. You know, Rose and the Doctor were separated. We had a little tweak where we went to Bad Wolf Bay and we thought he was going to say, I love you, because we like to sexualize the Doctor now. And that was season 2. And of course, he came up with this concoction, the Genesis arc and the Cult of Skaro. Right. Park that. I don't want to be doing a long history speech here because you're fans. You know this. I'm just reminding you. Season 3, we'd had with Utopia, humankind in the future, who, as we all know now, spoilers, turned into the Toclafane. I can never say it. Martha was key in this. Companion being key is another one of his defaults. Remember, she just had a chat fest. She went around the planet having a chit chat with everybody, so the power would come. The Doctor faced Armageddon by being turned into a budgie. And remember, that software was used by the Master from the Lazarus experiment. So again, something parked in the middle of the season was used again. And that's happened season 1, season 2, season 3. The Dalek story, the Cybermen 2-parter, the Lazarus experiment. And in this season, as you know, it was Harold Saxon all the way through the season. Same tricks as Bad Wolf. And then we got the Jesus syndrome. And this is where I'm thinking of the monk thing, where you're going to see Shooty soon. So I'm going to make a link up in a minute if you've got the patience. We're nearly there. Because the whole of humankind had a chit-chat about him at the same time, and he'd been waiting a year to get the right frequency. Season 1, get the right frequency. There's all the Dalek UFOs. Get the right frequency. The Cybermen aren't ghosts anymore. We can turn them. Ooh. Now we've got this. And of course, it's all done with the mobile phones because it was the same in season 4. Mobile phones. And of course, everybody kind of could sink in and make him like a Jesus Messiah figure. And he did do the John the Baptist thing of the 40 days and 40 nights, because if you think about it, he had to wait in his little budgie cage for a year. It's the same thing as the 40 days, 40 nights. Suffering, penance, atonement. Park that. And of course, you had the Lucy Saxon at the end picking up the signet ring, which we got in the giggle. Same thing again. It's just the same beats. The void, we had the rift, and then we had the void, and the void was key here. Sorry, I'm getting the wrong season. Void was season 2. In this one, it'll come back to me. Funeral Pyre. Oh, the Archangel Network. How can I forget the Archangel Network? In season 4, we have a network as well. We have a subwave network. So, yep. Let me just get myself in order. Naughty boy. The Master looking into the time vortex. Have you heard that one before today? Rose looked into the time vortex so she can get rid of all those Daleks so nicely and easily at the end. And in season 3, we heard that the Master, as a little boy, looked into the time vortex. We had some hocus pocus about it. It was the untempered schism. Some people ran away, some people walked away, kind of like the Doctor. Some people went mad. That was the story. Looking into the time vortex again. Same trick. Martha was key in this one. Just hold that one. Companion is key. And then, of course, we disconnected with Captain Jack at the end. Martha, we split. So we've had disconnections again. Season 4, we're nearly there. And then I'm dying to hear your predictions because I'll tell you mine. So we had the Crucible, which I've referred to a few times now. Oh, sorry. If I just remembered, there was the Paradox machine in season 3, and that had been used. It was there, and then he used it to defeat Harold Saxon. So I just want to remind you, there's always something right in front of us, like a time window in this season, which is obviously going to be used. Donna Noble, as you know, I'm telling you the obvious, she was the key. The companion was the key. As we know, she took in the vapes from the hand, and suddenly we had the meta crisis. He seems to love this hook. Oh, I hate it. It's like Tinkerbell magic dust. When we've watched Regenerations, it seems to be a very internal thing. I remember, obviously, being a kid, Planet of the Spiders. His whole body's riddled with radiation. I remember that more from the book when I read it and thinking, oh, God, that sounds awful. His whole body's kind of eating itself alive. And I thought, oh, what a shame. And then, of course, he needed that kind of push from Campo Roche to kind of... And now we just, it's like this vapor. What did we see in the Star Beast? The regeneration vapor was just floating around like a blooming cloud. And then Donna Noble, Rose Noble, and it went past some of the unit team. I mean, honestly, dear God, Tinkerbell fairy dust. So with this season 4, the Crucible and the Davros's reality bomb, powered by 27 planets, all on the same way. When the 27 planets all fire the same wavelength into reality of different times, it destroys reality itself, as Davros said. So we had networks, wavelengths, transmissions, the same trick. The magnetron was used to send the planets back at the end, and he used the energy of the rift. You know, this oozy Tinkerbell energy that exists in RTD world, and that oozy energy just worked as a rope and to tow the Earth back to where it should be. And then, of course, we had the Harriet Jones subwave network, which was very handy. Okay, the resolution. We ended up, the Doctor was disconnected from Donna. So we've had disconnection from Captain Jack, disconnection from Rose, disconnection from Donna. So I'm not going to hang around and disappoint you. I'm going to now start to do my predictions. Shall I do that? And then I'm going to come to the thread and see where you think I'm going to get it completely wrong. But this is the fun bit. So you've heard what I've said of what I've looked at with the 4 seasons. Which, yeah, that sounds as though I'm being very cultural. Right, here we go. In no particular order. Can you imagine how disappointed you'd be if I just said, my prediction is the Doctor will cry? You'd look at me going, wait, man, everybody knows that. I actually do think he will cry at the end. But so did David Tennant at the end of losing Rose. And he was very down after losing Donna Noble. So, yeah. Anyway, here's the big ones. Just like we had the subwave network in season 4 with Harriet Jones, and we've had various devices to kind of energize the Doctor in season 3, it's all that kind of thing. I think there's a possibility that Sutek's mental energy can be disrupted by some subwave network. Now, I'm not just going to say that and you go, oh, well, thanks, Brendan. That's half an idea. I'm going to link it to several things. So go with me. Possibly by the Doctor or somebody can tap into the brain of one of the Harbingers. These Harbingers seem to be everywhere. There's one in unit, Harriet Harbinger, so to speak. And I wonder if or Susan Twist, by using them somehow, you can disrupt the concentration and the power of Sutek. That's just a thought. There's loads. So possibly using Susan Twist in that way and break into it. I think one of the resolutions will definitely be Sutek caught by the time window. The Doctor reversing its use to lock him in it. It's what happened in Pyramids of Mars, really. I think he's going to do something similar again. The device mentioned in part 1 always solves the issue in part 2, according to RTD. So we had the magnetic clamps, we had the time vortex, we had the magnetron, we had the rift manipulator. I think this time window solves everything. But it won't solve everything because we need a companion disconnect. And quite obviously, RTD loves season 19. At the end of it, we had Time Flight and Tegan disconnect, but Arc of Infinity, she's back. So I think this time, Ruby Sunday will be disconnected from the TARDIS crew by being trapped within the time window. And that will force him next year to go looking. By the way, this won't be completely resolved this season. This is going to continue because you've seen shots of season 2, that 1950s Miami one, and actually on the cinema front, the words change and it says Harbinger. So I think these Harbingers, all these pantheon of gods, are going to go way into season 2, the trickster, etc. So I don't think Sutek will be totally defeated. I think the time window lock might happen, and that's basically it. But the Harbingers are going to be around for seasons to come because I think RTD thinks he's got, this money will grow on trees. If he just does fantasy for 3 or 4 seasons, easy peasy. He can make up any old nonsense. So I think that's where we're going to go with that one. I think we're going to have loads of Armageddon. You've seen the shots. I've got them here somewhere, haven't I? You've seen the shots. We're going to have loads of Armageddon and chaos, just like we had in seasons 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, remember Star Beast? All those cracks in the pavement, all that molten lava, and then suddenly at the end, when we solved the launch of the Meep rocket, that they all sealed again with polyfiller. Well, he's going to do something like that. There's the Armageddon shot. And we're going to have absolute chaos, but it'll all be solved easy peasy. Now, where I think we're going to go with this. So I've mentioned the mental energy of Sutek could be disrupted by using one of their Harbingers and tapping into them. We've then got the Doctor going monk-like, a bit like the Budgie Cage, has to appear, has to do something on his own, whether it's going to another planet, it might be Mars, to actually reconnect something to do with the Pyramids of Mars, maybe. I think the other trick, though, is the Ruby Sunday mother. I think Ruby Sunday's mother is Ruby. And I think that because in Bad Wolf, think of what he likes to do. Rose was Bad Wolf. Rose scattered Bad Wolf as a message, really, to her for the finale. And I think we're going to get Ruby Sunday. Her mother is Ruby doing this. It's going to be this kind of warning to herself. We saw her pointing more at the TARDIS last week in the time window. I think that's what's going to be key there. See what you think in the thread in a minute. We're going to get a surprise skill of a companion or a surprise guest. RTD has said there will be a surprise big guest in the final. Now, I wonder if that's Caroline Ford. Because 2 Time Lords, I know she's never been stated to be a Time Lord, but I've always assumed that actually, that if Susan appears and that's not being factored in by Sutek, that maybe something might happen. Possibly, but Susan might be damaged by it. Susan might be crushed by it. Susan might help out. This is just a hunch. If Susan Foreman comes back to help out, to break things, and yes, I see Dada DeBasis says Sean Pertwee, maybe another Doctor appears. I've got another theory on that one. We'll come to the Sean Pertwee bit. But, that's a possibility. And because he did say this season will end with us screaming. Now, we might be screaming, he thinks, because Millie is trapped in the time window and she could be dead. And that's sad. But the other thing could be that we see Susan at last after 61 years. But sadly, she's forced to regenerate. And some think into Verada see-through. But basically, she's forced to regenerate because she actually became the sacrifice against Sutek. That would be a very moving way of introducing Susan, wouldn't it? She'd be big, she'd be important. She wouldn't be spraining her ankle in Five Doctors. She would be centerpiece resolution, and that's follows his default of the companion does something surprising that you didn't really know they'd do, and you could have a surprise companion do that. So Susan, I think Ruby Sunday's love might defeat Sutek. That's the other way of doing it. I'm just checking through my predictions here. Oh yes. I think it'll all be solved after about 30 odd minutes. And I think we'll have 10 minutes of kissy kissy hug fest. Everybody saying, are you nice? Remember the end of Giggle? After all that chaos with the toy maker, they all sat down to have a curry in the garden. And they were worried about the shooting from the granddad. I think we're going to have about 10 minutes of kind of calm, chatty, and then, oh, what a shame Susan died, or what a shame Ruby Sunday's not here, but we'll hopefully she's alive and we'll find her. And I'm going to go and find my boyfriend somewhere in an alternative universe because I quite like kissing him. That kind of chat. I think that's what will happen. So the plot will fizzle out faster than a bonfire night sparkler. Susan Foreman might appear and save everybody. Ruby Sunday might be caught in the time window. Remember, Sarah had a quartz star piece of jewelry from Pandora in season 4 finale. Just so happened around her neck. Donna just so happened to do the meta crisis. Rose, who obviously just normally likes chips, suddenly had the whole time vortex in her. Martha happened to, surprise, we didn't know, but in part 2 of season 3, she'd been having a chit chat with the whole of the human race. We didn't know, did we? That kind of hocus pocus nonsense. Have I missed anything out as I come back to the thread and see what you think? Right. Shut your face, Noble. Let's join the panel, because maybe I've gone off on one. I got it right with Sutek, and I'm going to get everything else wrong. Oh, yes, the Sean Pertwee point, just before I come to the thread. I said about the Fugitive Doctor? Is he going to crank in the Fugitive Doctor between Doctor 2 and Doctor 3? Because if you bring Sean Pertwee back, you're playing around with the John Pertwee incarnation. Why would you do that? Why would you tell everybody in the Radio Times to go and watch Spearhead from Space before you watch this finale? Spearhead from Space, as we know, introduced the Third Doctor. Why is that key to this? But we've got a time window. Now, the reason I mentioned Susan Foreman, because quite rightly, you will tell me she's in the future. She can't come into 2024. Well, she can with a time window. The time window, if you work at it, remember all that snow falling every time Ruby Sunday's there. I think that's key to something. I think there's more snow to come. I think the snow could be a way of actually infecting the Sutek energy. I do think there's more going on. But I also think the time window, because it's sat right there, right in front of us. If we can go back 20 years to see Ruby Sunday dropped off at a church, we can go 200 years in the future, and whenever it is, was it 2064 or 2164, to get Susan. Susan can come back through the time window. This is the moment for Susan Foreman. So that's a good possibility, okay? And also, it's a good possibility to go back to the Third Doctor's time, and the Fugitive Doctor helps solve the issue. So I'm not hedging my bets. That there's a possibility of a couple of things here. The time window, we either go back to the Spearhead from Space, and I know some of your fears are the Fugitive Doctor came before the Third Doctor, and that's where he can plant it, because he loves Chris Chibnall, doesn't he? But she would then help solve it. Or we get Susan Foreman coming from the future to help solve it. I think we'd prefer that one for different reasons. So there you go. I have thought this through, and it'll all be wrong, but isn't it fun when you're a fan? So let's see what you've been predicting. I'm just seeing where you all started. You've been firing away. I hope I haven't missed anybody out. So I'll start now and see what we think. This is where our discussions will really start. Yeah, well, we'll start with Doctor Who Mania. Yeah, he sets up the finales pretty well. One of my favorite ever Doctor Who stories, bar none. I mean, there's a lot of them. But Stolen Earth, I will give him great applause and credit for. I sometimes got sick of when he does do a cliffhanger. He has about 5. Sarah Jane about to get exterminated in the car. various things going, the regeneration, just do one. He can't let you have, like I said, focus on one ball and enjoy that match. He has to have about 5 or 6 footballs on the pitch, and it's very hard sometimes to focus. And that's maybe like a magician's trick. Watch my hand over here, but but you're going, and then it looks clever when it gets solved, and you're going, no, you were just doing bamboozling me. Nonsense. It's not writing that. That's just kind of putting fog in front of my face. But yeah, he sets them up pretty well. Although I don't think this one was as good. It was quite theatrical and static. You had the time window set, the unit set, and you had the set where Susan Twist was apparently doing a speech. For all the money, it was just 3 rooms, really. And the Doctor, as you know, was going, really, really heroic stuff from him. I agree, TARDIS Spider, the finales are too big. When you put the scale, like I said, I was only watching the android invasion. It was an invasion of Earth, wasn't it? But it just looked as though we're in a village half the time. Just keep it small scale so you can control it. I don't want to see 1 million Daleks. I don't want to see 1 million anything. Give me 3. In old Doctor Who, you had 3, didn't you? If you had 3 monsters, you thought, well, hey. I think we had 4, was it 3 or 4 pteroleptals? No, we won't have any more. You knew that if you had them marching down a corridor, Cybermen or anything, they only had so many, and then they did the repeat. We know that from Power of the Daleks, everything. B-Man, I think we're losing Ruby from the end of season 1, but she will be found or unlocked or whatever it is in season 2. And that's time flights to Arc of Infinity. That's the classic way he does it. That's the Captain Jack at the end of season 1. That's Rose at the end of season 2, but she came back. He does it every time, Beeman. He's going to do it again. I'll put my money on that one. Doctor Who Mania. The only 2-part finale that is consistent over both parts is The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. I'll give you that, although I'm still dissatisfied with The Journey's End because, the quartz star, I think it was called, around Sarah Jane's neck and all this. It's like too... I have to say, Stolen Earth was pretty almost pitch perfect. And I don't think part 2 can live up to that. But I think what we've all been saying in the thread is just have the finale a little bit lower and really solve everything, nail it. Anthony Parkinson, RTD2 thinks constantly referencing Davina and other pop culture makes his tired writing resonate with the youth. The trouble is, when you watch some of the early Pertwees, and there's a couple of, not celebrity newsreaders or something, means nothing to me. So it never works, that. Hello, Scottish Davros again. I think this era was going to struggle ratings-wise as it was right after the Chibnall era, but like the last era, quality isn't really there either. The thing is, yes, he had to come back guns blazing. David Tennant and Catherine Tate was what he thought would do that, and it didn't. Yeah, that's why I picked my picture. You know me, I am an English teacher. You will get analogies. Sorry about that. But yes, Doug Sims, it's rinse and repeat. We're on a spin cycle, aren't we? A spin cycle of formula, a spin cycle of default settings, a spin cycle of loads of, companion disconnects, this, that, and the other. And unfortunately, I think that's partly why the ratings are not there. I do. Because it's been done before. And people are watching so many good programs out there, and I've referenced some today. Let's have a look. Cybermat Strikes, good to see you. I'm hoping you're back on Sunday with us when we'll react. Gollum Doctor was silly. I hated I couldn't deal with the Doctor being turned into a budgie. I couldn't do it at all. I really hated that. There's things you can do to your lead actor and your lead hero character, but don't diminish them so much. I just couldn't deal with watching it. That was true. And that was the Armageddon. Armageddon, as in your Doctor's this wizened little hobbit. No, but how can you then suddenly turn into David Tennant with his flicked hair again, flying through a room with his shoelaces done? I mean, come on. Calm it down, RTD. Now, we're here. We've got Marine Boy 66. Looking forward to Millie Gibson's exit as her acting ability is painful and just as good as it was in Corrie. I used to watch Corrie, so I'm not a snob. I haven't seen her in Corrie. The trouble is, I think they've all been roughly similar in this series. I don't think they've been given the lines to fire off. I really don't. Remember, says Divine and Dragon, RTD admitted he was nicking his older stories, among others, using the excuse that to the new audience it would all be new, so it didn't matter, disrespects real fans. He did say that. The other thing, Divine and Dragon, is I thought he got bored easily. I thought he wanted a challenge. So why are you going, as I said in my stream yesterday, why are you plundering and looting classic Who treasures? If you're bored, do your own. And yes, I think every Doctor Who fan, we never agree, do we? But I think on this one we might. I so hate undoing the Doctor Donna Noble arc. You look, I think we'd got over it, as in it was a damn shame. It's like we all hated how he treated Harriet Jones, the Prime Minister. It felt cruel, that. It felt wrong. She was a human defending the human race. We've seen the Brigadier stuff, blow up the Silurians and all the rest of it. And they've continued to get on. But, and he didn't ever say, don't you think the Brigadier looks tired? He never tried to get the Brigadier sacked. And it just felt a little too much. I, as just a viewer, felt it was cruel to Harriet Jones, and I didn't think she deserved it because she was trying to defend the human race. And the Doctor isn't always there. That point had been made clear. So, he was asleep for most of the episode. So, who the hell is he? His alarm clock didn't work. And he comes to save the day and then tells somebody off who'd been fighting the fight all the way through. That's not a hero to me. That was so out of order. So I hated that resolution. Luckily, RTD realised, to his credit, and she was given the Subwave network, and she had a heroic end in front of 3 Death Squad Daleks. But the Donna Noble meta crisis we hated. I thought she was a stunning character. It was a very cruel, sad ending. It's like giving somebody Alzheimer's in a second. It horrible. But we then face that reality, and Doctor Who fans, like everybody, good story writing will make you just face those realities. And then doing what they did in Star Beast just destroyed all that, and he made it worse by actually revisiting it. Now, I'd love to see Donna Noble again, but you screwed up, RTD. If you've given her this kind of sci-fi Alzheimer's, you can't do anything with her. You've destroyed that character, so you're going to have to find a new one. Just be careful what you destroy. We didn't bring Adric back, did we? And we could have. Let's have a look. You've got all some interesting ideas. Any more predictions, you lot? Anthony Parkinson. The powerful companion trope is RTD and Moff's worst contribution to Doctor Who. Agreed. This show is called Doctor Who. It's not called Doctor Who and Friends or K9 and Company. It's not called The Allies of Doctor Who. But you saw this. Season 4's a classic. When he suddenly said the reason why he runs around the TARDIS console is because really it should have 6 people. No, for God's sake, don't be so stupid. How many episodes of Doctor Who, when he takes off, have you seen where he clicks 2 or 3 switches and it takes off? You need 6 people. For what reason? No, the importance of the companions has been inflated way too much. Sometimes they're nice stories, and this is where it's weird, isn't it? Because sometimes RTD can deceive you like a magician. That story, you go, oh, I like that. I like School Reunion. I like this. I like that. But it's seeds of destruction, ultimately, because he then taps into them again and again. And every time it's like death by 1,000 cuts. The Doctor's character is being diminished. Maybe we don't want a strong male figure. Rhetorical. This is not me thinking this. Maybe we don't want a strong male figure in 2024. Maybe we don't want a male shouting his mouth off. I just don't know why you have to destroy Doctor Who. I just don't know. And these companions come and go, and they're all human. Well, most of them are. Let's have a look. Just see. Doug Sims, what have you got to say here? Despite all the faults, I'm such a sucker. I'm still looking forward to the finale. Well, yes, I am. I'm more because I'm intrigued. We've all said this on our streams, and I'm sure you might be thinking this as well, that when you do streams, remember, I wasn't doing streams before the giggle. I was just a normal person, just sometimes reading about Doctor Who in the magazine, various things. And then suddenly, once you start doing these streams, you are finding as much content as possible in interviews, and you're going into so much detail that I found myself getting angrier and more impatient and more frustrated. And I sometimes have wondered if I didn't do any of these sense-free streams, would I be exactly as I am now, thinking what I am? I would have been the same, disappointed completely. Yeah, I mean, that's undeniable. I'm a Doctor Who fan, and what I've seen is not Doctor Who. I bet my last dollar resolution will be the reset button. Maybe Paul McGann wakes up, I had a stranger's dream. Well, I think a lot of you would either prefer that we went back to there. They won't, we know that. Or we went back to the end of Peter Capaldi. We won't. That's one thing we can predict. Terry, so RTD seasons are like box cake mixers, all the same basically, just some colouring added. Yeah, bit of sprinkling on top. Yeah, same cake. Farsight, good to see you. I absolutely agree. He's a one-trick pony. The stories follow the same basic thread. And it just gets tired because I'm watching it almost to see if my predictions are way out, if I'm half near one of them. You know, I mean, that's not watching it for the right reasons, is it? X3 or SM, my eyesight, you know, I've got my glasses over here. I'm trying not. Sutek won't be hard defeated, maybe because they'll want to bring Sutek back again. Well, the toy maker's not dead either, is he? He's just locked in a vault. I don't think any of these are going to be defeated. And RTD doesn't seem to like death unless he's an Asian soldier from Manchester, and then it's all right. He doesn't seem to like to do much death, does he? When that Mr. Chatterjee in the Giggle was turned into a wooden puppet, which I thought was gruesome, he was turned into a normal man at the end. Rubbish. Yes, Scottish Davros, rinse and repeat. Same cake. Oh, I see. You know, I'm an English teacher. I'm loving these analogies. Buttercream frosting. I know. This is what I mean. You go to a shop and you get a cake mix if you want to be lazy. There you go. I mean, this is what he's got his cake mix. You know, what do I normally do? I surprise everyone that the companion at the end, she does a special wink to camera, and then suddenly that solves that. She sings a song, and then the snow comes, and the snow gets on the back of the ruby head of the Sutek, and then he falls flat. And mumbo jumbo nonsense. Will Ruby tell her she died? Will she tell us she was born? I mean, I think it's Ruby delivering Ruby. Some timey-wimey I can't get my head around, but I'm not writing the series. Cybermat Strikes. I reckon he's going to get a lodestone from Susan and rebuild the Eye of Horus. I do wonder, Cybermat Strikes, when you see him looking like some sort of monk or, you know, traveler, it looks like some sort of desert planet. Is that Mars? Has he had to go back to Mars to do something where, of course, there was that connection that kept Sutek kind of bound, which Horus set up? I'm just looking for any other tasty predictions. It's very hard, isn't it, when you have to put your colours to the mast, really. Divine and Dragon. Ruby is her own mother. Very RTD. Remember, what was the dialogue in part 1? And everything RTD does, you know, when he does that smug act, and in that interview, he said, I'm up all night. We're trying to work. I used to turn the auction now. I don't know. I'm up all night wondering whether I use the word but or yet. I'm up till 2 a.m. deciding. I'm a top writer. Nobody messes with my writing. No actor changes my dialogue. Remember that one? Nobody changes his dialogue. Well, when in the dialogue in part 1, in The Legend of Ruby Sunday, he said to Kate Stewart, you can have the granddaughter without the mother. That's how Time Lords work. So it is possible that Ruby Sunday, as an adult, drops off Ruby Sunday the baby. There you go. Makes so much sense. And it won't be explained. It'll be explained in one sentence, because they'll have more time having a curry somewhere, all having a laugh at the end without explaining it properly. XSM, I really hope we get to see more of the Susan Triad as demon cyborg thing. Thought that was completely wasted if it was just for a 1 second scene. I totally agree. You might be onto something there. SG is flattening one of my predictions dead. He's puncturing it. He's destroying it. I don't think Caroline Ford is coming back. That would be a hell of a missed opportunity. I'm disappointed It's bittersweet, isn't it? William Russell was brought back to say one line in Power of the Doctor. Is that good? Is that bad? Are you just glad he was back for one line? But I wanted to see a tiny. I know I'm counting for age, but I'd have loved to see a tiny bit more of Ian Chesterton if you're going to bring him back. Let's have a look. Divine and Dragon. I really feel RTD has made a practice of disrespecting classic characters by inserting them in a poor series run. Mel. The new story doesn't work, but the legacy characters are tarnished by association. Too right. That's my problem. Stop. Oh. Barry Stroud's obviously having a panic attack. Please, not Sean Pertwee. Singing, kissing, dancing, crying, clear, but please, not Sean. I always thought Sean said he wouldn't do that to his dad's reputation. I have got it on you saw it on the stream last night. Sean Pertwee is listed. I don't know if that's a trick or a decoy. I was shocked when I saw that. And as you know, I've already factored in a theory, and Divine and Dragon's referring to it. The fugitive Doctor plugged in between Troughton and Pertwee was a typical prediction, since we never saw the on-screen morph between 2 and 3. And wouldn't RTD, like Chibnall, like Moffat, love to change canon timelines because they're bored creatives? Oh, well, Cybermat Strikes is really kicking off now. Sean Pertwee's Ruby's dad. Oh, my God. I don't know what that will end up meaning. Are you saying... I know, I don't know if you're being cheeky or not. I mean, do you think Sean Pertwee coming back could be a ruse? A bit like Susan Twist, the name of the actress, that we see the Pertwee name and we think he's going to be the third Doctor, but he's nothing to do with the third Doctor. Is that what you're thinking? Divan and Dragon is really feeling down. I don't think it can survive unless they do a single annual special. Maybe there just aren't enough viewers to justify the cost. I agree. The weather's beating it. The news is beating it. Football matches are beating it. It's just not working. Graham says, Brendan, it may not be snow. Is it fallout from a future? Do you know what? When I first saw it, I'll be honest, if you see my Sutek prediction stream from one of the trailers, I didn't think it was snow at that point. I did think it was a kind of dust and a fallout. I was thinking, and that's where I got my Sutek prediction by some of the wrong clues. And that was one of them, right? So, but, you know, because I thought it was more to do with dust, and you are dust. Divine and Dragon. Well, yeah, sticking the landing is one of the hardest things. And sometimes writers start with the ending and work backwards. I don't think RT does that. In fact, I've got the writer's tale. I think a lot of you have read the writer's tale. He doesn't do that. He sees set sequences. He has an idea. And sometimes as he's going, he goes, remember about the 4 knocks? We were told about the 4 knocks. There will be 4 knocks. And if you read the writer's tale, he hadn't worked that out. Now, how it ended up in the end, I thought was beautiful. The Bernard Cribbins 4 knocks. But that wasn't the plan, as you know. Sometimes serendipity, sometimes it does work. Anthony Parkinson, because we seem to be on the doom thread at the moment. The ratings will soon be so low, it'll be cheaper to hire a local hall and do each episode as a play for the 30 or so people still interested. Paul Tosland, I predicted this as soon as RTD was announced, and it will be worse than Jodie. Well, fair credit to you. I mean, I wasn't streaming then. When I heard he was coming back, I had a bit more hope. So I'm the mug. I know you're asking Mark Lewis about End of Time. I ran out of time when I did my stream last night. I'm doing a show a day. Mark, I can't keep up. So basically, I quit. I got all my ideas from because I wanted details about the first 4 seasons. I was well aware of the End of Time and those specials. I ran out of time. You've spotted a loophole, but if you just go and spot some RTD loopholes. No, that's the truth. I'll always tell you the truth. I ended up streaming last night just before 10 o'clock, and I'm on again not long later. So that's why. And I'll be on again tomorrow. As soon as I heard Disney were back in it, I knew it'd be unbearable, said Anthony Parkinson. Dada Debaser, that was just RTD inserting his political bias as usual, which serves his ego. And this is interesting because you're in the same state. I'm talking American. I'm in County Durham. Hello. I am in a little village in County. Mind you, there's a lot of little villages in County Durham. That's why I keep having power cuts. Where are you? Have you subscribed? And while I'm saying that word, that dirty word, I think it's a dirty word for some people. I think some people don't like to give you the subscriptions. I'd love to get to 700 just because I would. No, I would. And Rachel, we had on last night. She's gone gambusters. She's added another 300 odd so quickly. We're both producing the material. If you like the material, and I know a lot of you have supported me and you come on and we text each other, thank you. But if you haven't subscribed, please, it would make my day, and I can sit down in the garden, a bit like the 14th Doctor, and think my life is worthwhile. Don't worry, I'm not that desperate. Where were we on the theories? Divine and Dragon. Companions can have a growth arc, but shouldn't be the key to everything. Companions are there for the audience to identify with. Being keys to everything is fan fiction. Look, if you take half your point, the companions have a growth arc. Can the Doctor have an arc to himself? Now, did you notice I tweaked what you said? Because I wasn't going to dare say give the Doctor a growth arc, because then we go all into emotional psychobabble and we make him this human frail creature. Remember, one of the little mini arcs in season 1 was the Chris Eccleston 9th Doctor with his own identity. Now, season 1 now, RTD seems to say that the Ncuti Gatwa 15th Doctor has an issue being a foundling. And so we're going back to Doctor identity again. And I think if I'm getting it right, you would agree with me. No growth arc for the Doctor. Just have a good arc for the Doctor, a sequence of good stories. But yeah, let's not change the Doctor. I think we've had enough of that. The Doctor, I'm the last of the Time Lords. I'm the last of my people. I can't find Gallifrey. Am I a good man? All right, Doctor, get on with it. Start running the TARDIS, reverse, and get out of that blooming unit headquarters. Divine and Dragon. My mum has always said, Brendan, you're too honest. Brendan, sometimes people don't like you. I mean, she doesn't say it this strongly, but she says some people are intimidated by you because of your honesty. And I think, and my mum did use the example that I'm the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes, Hans Christian Andersen. And here, Divine and Dragon, once you recognize the pattern, just watching to check out the execution of the pattern is the easiest thing to do. Not much suspense, is there? If you... RTD has acknowledged that he's using online social media a lot more, playing with us. So I think sometimes he likes to see us getting angry about a clue. So he's playing with us on that meta level. It's just that you have to be so clever to make that work. So, for example, in part 1, you could see he was playing with us all with the Susan Triad, and how many fans in different forms had said, "Oh, that's TARDIS, that's TARDIS." And of course, he's going, "We all knew that. I'm better than that." But Sue Tech, oh, you could see there's that kind of meta play with the fans going on. I just think that's too clever ass it's just too far. Just do a good story. I think sometimes you're more bothered about the froth and the meta and all these other little bits going on than just doing the classic format. Remember, the other thing I was irritated by, remember in the giggle? Can't remember the exact detail, but you know that everybody was angry. And it was a skit on the human race nowadays. And I thought it was a skit online again, that lots of fans get very angry. Everybody's all shouty. And he wanted to have a laugh at us, didn't he? There. Yeah. RTD has got much worse in recent years. If you ever watched his mini, yes, I did. And I was angered by it years and years. Dada Debaser, you'd see how deranged RTD has become. It turned into a sci-fi, didn't it? It really did turn into a sci-fi. It was kind of trying to predict the future. And anyone who voted Brexit, scumbags. But and he made us go across the English Channel in a dinghy with a character we loved, so that we all now felt very sympathetic about what's going on into every country in the world, really, at the moment, with population movement. But he's got answers to everything. Yes, he has grown a bit neurotic in a way. As we age, sometimes our latent impulses become more... Do you know what I think? And I want to be human here. I'm gay. We didn't adopt kids. I didn't agree with it because we were brought up at a certain time, and, you're conditioned. because that was nothing that was on the agenda when I was young. So basically, I don't have kids, but I've been a teacher for 30 years, and I will miss not having kids, right? That's I'm not going to call it a sadness, but that's a truth. I'm going to miss not having kids. So with that in mind, I can try and empathize with RTD that as you get older, you do think differently. Legacy, will people remember you? Can you change things for the younger ones and make it better? I think his heart can be in the right place. I can think that. But please don't destroy a franchise to do it. Make up your own show like Years and Years to do the message. But don't destroy years and years and years and years of other people's work to do that point. And look, I had to leave. I left teaching without thinking I had to imprint a legacy. You've got to control your ego. You've got to control that element. You are a public servant and you do something for others. You do something for the kids. You do not intrude yourself. You just don't do that. So I used to, I was ahead of you. Loads of kids would come into my office and sit down in tears and tell me they were gay. That's my short version, because obviously they don't talk like that. But you just let them talk. I could have done an assembly and talked about the message about coming out and stuff, since I've experienced it myself. But what's it got to do with me? And my experience as an older man in a different era is totally irrelevant to the kids. You have to disconnect yourself, and it's got nothing to do with you. The best thing you can do is be tolerant, to listen, to support, which is hopefully what I did do. And RTD has to be a big boy, like I'm trying to be a big boy, and go, hold on, it's not about you. Run the show, take the money, make it successful. It does need a relaunch, make the relaunch successful, but keep your own little ego out of it. Keep your own little kind of issues about, I've got no kids, where's my legacy? I want to put an imprint on the human race. I want to make it better. Well, make it better. Do that. But you don't do that by forcing a franchise into your kind of default position. And I didn't force all my class lessons and my assemblies into, I want to talk about me again. Irrelevant. And the kids don't want this preachy process. And I didn't ever tell them about me coming out. And I never told them. It was irrelevant. I do not come into their mind. And RTD has to realize that. And I think it's important. He's a writer. I want to be a writer. And I think you've got to be very careful how you do it. You do not impose. You let people learn by their experience. But you have to keep out of it completely. Rob Fellows. Hi, will Sutek get any character development at all in... Well, do you know what? It's made me think about the slogan for the series about the Cosmic Joyride. Is the Cosmic Joyrider actually Sutek sat on a TARDIS going through the universe? Hey! I can see this Doctor... If you think of the opening sequence, and RTD did say he wants extra sparks on the TARDIS going through the vortex, and there's obviously, because of this fantasy thing, you've got Sutek's kind of getting a piggyback on the TARDIS going through that vortex at a fast speed. He's had a joyride. He has had a cosmic joyride. I don't know if he's going to get any character development. He's had his thrills. He's been kind of holding on like hell to that lantern. No wonder that lantern on the top of the TARDIS is just a bit bigger over the last few years, because you've got to hold on like hell. There's no health and safety for Sutek there, unless he's got his legs wrapped right round the TARDIS doors, which means that Shooty and Millie come out through his crotch. Very disturbing stuff. So anyway, this one, you don't want to go there. Cybermat Strikes. Adric is Ruby's dad. And drag Sutek to hell through the time window. Do you know what? Based on my theories today, that the time window can bring back Susan Foreman, and it can bring back, Fugitive Doctor or John Pertwee's Third Doctor. You could bring Adric back, but it would just bloody blow up the whole blooming sense of Doctor Who, wouldn't it? So. Cybermat Strikes says Susan is back, so he's going with me on that one. Mark Lewis, Ruby being her own mother would be like Lister from Red Dwarf being his own father. Timey-wimey. Doug Sims, he's pleading, please don't make Ruby Susan's daughter. But Susan's going to come back. I'm putting money on it. Over the Overseer, if Russell is bringing Susan back, it's more a question of how he's going to ruin her legacy. We shall soon find out. Scottish Davros still hanging around. Thank you. The trouble is, the current escapist media have launched such an attack on males 18 to 35. Males see themselves as worthless, and that has disastrous consequences. I did a stream recently, didn't I, mention that the toxic masculinity we had to teach in schools. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. These kids were born, they've just gone to school. There's nothing toxic about them at all. Doug, I want to see Caroline Ford, but I fear she will be underused or misused. I feel she won't return. Shall we be fair for a second? Because I know sometimes people go, oh, you've all got it in for RTD. You're just kicking the new series. Right, let's be fair. The 5 Doctors must have been extremely hard, we know it was, for Terrance Dicks to compile. He didn't know how many Doctors were in it half the time. The Tom Baker scenario, which companions were in or not. It was a changing and moving feast, wasn't it? And Terrance Dicks did a really good job. And I will say the same for Stephen Moffat with Dave the Doctor. You know, these were very hard tasks. Talk about trying to deliver and land something. Susan in the 5 Doctors, was she well used there? I would attest not. She is the original companion. She was given time to run down a corridor at BBC Studios and then sprain her ankle and stay in the TARDIS. I don't know if that's well using Susan Foreman from the original. And actually it feeds into, when I saw Caroline Ford at the Doctor Who Dwas recently, you don't have to have gone to Dwas because you know she talks about this, that she felt she was underused as an actress. The unearthly child concept was fascinating to her. And it would be, wouldn't it? I mean, as an actress, you're thinking, I've got to be unearthly but young. It's a bit like challenging Matt Smith. So she was disappointed when she ended up into Scream in Peril mode. And then 5 Doctors doesn't exactly change that, does it? So I know your point and I agree with it. But was she underused also by Terrance Dicks, who had a very difficult task? Cybermat Strikes has been very clever here. I know you've been thinking this out, that Sean Pertwee might be an anagram of Sean Pertwee. Whoa. Yes. Yes. Mark Lewis. Rumour is there's a Corporal Sullivan. Yes, it was in the cast list in the last episode. That is a relation to Harry. I'll believe it when I see it. So you've got Harriet Arbinger, whatever. Yeah. And then you've got Harriet Sullivan, so, or something like that. I might be getting that wrong. So, yeah, timey-wimey again. B-Man, what will the woke message RTD push in the final? I know I call it the Russell Hustle, don't I? I bet it's going to be bad and loud, face, green, smiling. I know. End of Time was a lot of nonsense, says Sadako24. Good to see you again. Hope you're well. Doug Sims, I really hope if there is a season 3, it's new showrunner and new Doctor Who is heroic, mysterious, and doesn't cry. Doug, your wish list is way high. I bet your parents had chaos with you at Christmas. I mean, you know, I bet they had to blooming do a hatchet job on it. I mean, what you want the world change? You want world peace? You sound like Miss World. You want world peace, and you want to travel. I think RTD will be kept around. The best we can hope for is he might be moved into a slightly different. Come on, you know how creatives work. They never sack each other. Oh, they're all too busy backslapping. So basically, RTD could be moved to a higher job where he oversees or something like that. I think Disney, if they renew season 3, I know there's rumors that he has, but I've seen no evidence. So therefore, I'm just speculating. If that does happen, I fully expect Disney will have more program notes and production notes and more diktat about the things that they think didn't work. I have a nice theory that Disney, believe it or not, against all our greater judgment, might be the ones who say, can we actually have what we thought we were paying for? Doctor Who, please. Because that's not what we think we're getting here. I mean, it would be so ironic if the custodian of Doctor Who, RTD, who said he had to come back to save it from all these imposters who didn't understand the franchise, is told by people who don't understand the franchise that they bought the franchise and they want to see that franchise, not a different one. It'd be so ironic. Divine and Dragon, if Disney is involved, I wonder if they will promote RTD to, there you go, to executive producer to put a new showrunner in charge creatively. I think that's how they do it, the Lovies, isn't it? And Cybermat Strikes. Well, I know I'm looking for subscribers under cupboards, under shelves. I mean, you know, are there any subscribers today out there still to be found? Hard to find. Click that button. God, it's hard work. Over the Overseer. Brendan, have you considered doing like spikes during our live chats? Apparently this helps the algorithm. What's a like spike over the Overseer? I'm so new to this. I just taught lessons, you see, really. What's a like spike? Sounds really painful. Right. If everybody knows what a like spike is, can I have a like spike? No, I don't know what it is. Sorry. Let's have a look. I'll take that off for a second there. Otherwise, it looks as though I'm ramming it down your throat. Although there is another one there, that one. Nice Matt Smith there. Like that one as well. Paul Tosland. He's already an executive producer on it. That's true. In fact, how many executive producers are on it? Looks like about 5. I mean, it's a bit like in schools. We had, used to just have a head, a deputy head, and teachers, really, heads of department. And then when I came back from Australia, you had you sometimes had acting executive principals. You had and head teacher was under that. Then you had assistant head teachers, loads of them, loads of deputy heads. And all of a sudden you thought, what the heck's that? Money, 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 loads of people sitting on little fiefdoms. Yeah, and it looks like that with Bad Wolf, doesn't it? It looks as though I'm an executive producer. No, I'm an executive producer. I'm an executive producer. I thought the executive producer, I mean, poor John Nathan Turner was only a producer. That's all he was. He was just a producer. Executive producer. Just in my education circles, sounds like saying you're the vice principal instead of just saying, you know. Divine and Dragon. Originally, the Time War and the emotional ramifications for the Doctor worked, but it could only be done once. Agreed. I was happy when Gallifrey was returned under Moffat. And let's add, would we all agree, don't tamper with Gallifrey anymore? It's been messed with. It's had a Dalek war. It's been turned into some little sugar cube universe thing. Didn't really make sense, but you know what I mean? It's now been, you know, the Cyber Masters. I mean, just leave it alone. The Master goes into the Matrix like it's the off license. He just pops in there, nicks a bit of booze. I mean, for God's sake, this is ridiculous. The Matrix, as Robert Holmes invented it, was not this kind of, you know, drive-in takeaway. The way they've turned the Matrix into this nonsense convenience store for slight rogue characters. Please, honestly, stop that, everybody. Showrunners, custodians of the show. The Matrix is not a drive-in takeaway. Divine and Dragon. Chibnall undid all RTD and Moffat created and resolved in their runs to repeat story beats that should never be repeated. Scottish Davros, I'm surprised he hasn't said it. You know, we talk about the club, the cabal they're in. We need fresh blood. We have to have fresh blood. If the Disney are going to do this properly, insist on fresh blood. Insist, saying, no, we want somebody else. Divine and Dragon, no self-insertion of personal issues. RTD should be a custodian, not an owner, and put his issues into original creations. Yeah, well, that's yeah. Bobby D, good to see you. It's funny the Prime Minister couldn't walk in unit, and yet one of the Tomorrow people kidnapped the Prime Minister and brought him into the lab. Listen, the whole thing was chaotic. The TARDIS lands in a top secure multinational agency that defends the planet with a villain riding on its back, and they didn't detect it. I can't speak that. And then Carla Sunday's allowed in on Mother Sunday or something. And then, you know, you have a YTS scheme for 15-year-olds who are absolutely blooming useless. Honestly, obviously, it's just mad. Rob Fellows agrees that there may be a franchise in this. The Matrix does great burgers. McDonald's is going to be challenged by Matrix. We need to think of a term for that, don't we? So Divan and Dragon tells me a spike spike is where you do a bit of promotion in the chat where you remind everyone to click. Right, okay then. In season 3, right, everybody? In season 3, when he was the budgie doctor, but Martha Jones had been going for a year around the whole planet Earth saying, the doctor, mention him at this moment, mention him. Right, we're going to do a love-in. Right, so in 5 seconds, we'll do a spike for the sensory, right, and see if it works. Right, so can everyone zoom in? Season 3, focus, 4, 3, 2, 1, like. Make me the messiah of the sense sphere. Like now, like. See if it works. I'm intrigued. They are. Look at them. They're nearly moved. Cybermat Strikes is really onto this. Able-bodied Davros is Ruby's dad. She saves everyone by opening the Medusa Cascade. Look, and that's the other thing. I'll give RTD. He has some amazing names. The Medusa Cascade. Beautiful. The Shadow Proclamation and actually installing Earthsea in it. Loved it. That sort of stuff. Well done. I love that RTD. He can do proper nouns. He can do some great science fiction names. Beautiful names. Beautiful. Grumpy old Bob. The unit soldier with Ruby in the time window room at the end of the Legend of Ruby Road is called Sullivan. Kate mentions her name in the dialogue. That's not the one who died though, is it? There's another one. Okay. We'll look out for that person. Well, I mean, we'll see if the likes have spiked me. I don't know what happens then when I've been spiked. Sounds like in Macbeth when you put heads on. This sounds like something dodgy Game of Thrones might happen. Right. So you have seen my predictions. You've seen my kind of summary of where I think it might go based on what RTD has done before. I don't want to outlive my welcome. You've spiked me. I'm going to check it hasn't hurt. And I should be on again tomorrow. Please, if you didn't see our lovely stream last night, because as Doctor Who fans, it's nostalgia as well, We talked about the Pyramids of Mars and critiqued it too, but there was an awful lot of love there. We then linked it so nicely to Empire of Death preview. And then we talked about our best favourite unit stories. And we go from Sontaran Stratagem to Invasion of the Dinosaurs, to Inferno, to Claws of Axis, to Spearhead from Space. And the thread was alive, listing everything else. But, lovely Doctor Who chat. That's how you do it, isn't it? You mix the present with the past. That's what we do as Doctor Who fans. And so please, if you haven't gone on there, give it a spike I don't know whatever you call it. But no, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons here. I do apologize. So that was me. That was me trying to do my job properly and entertain you. And hopefully you've been entertained. I was aware that I'd done 2 saloons this week. And I thought, no, I want to do a live one because last time we did it, you all enjoyed it. And you asked me to do another one. So I'm bowing down to you. And if you want another one, I will try and get one done. I don't like to do the same old topics for you, of course. So we've talked about the ratings. I've talked about one problem with RTD. I've got a few other ones that are separate. But if you've got any suggestions of what you want me to talk about in a live saloon tomorrow lunchtime, I'd be very grateful because, as soon as I finish this, you can guess what I'm doing next. But if you have been cruising like Sutek on the back of this channel, just thinking, oh, well, nice, cheap entertainment, TV's rubbish, and you haven't subscribed, how very dare you? Away. Come on, stop being little Suteks. Press that button and give us a subscription. Right. I hope if you're in Britain, you've had a good lunch. In America, you've had a good breakfast. Australia, you've had a good supper. I've enjoyed having you. Have you? Good night, goodbye, good morning, guten Tag. See you again. Bye.